Today's Toy Spot, we're looking at the brand new NECA Toys, Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, Ultimate Ash. Before we have a look at the figure, let's have a look at the box. The front box features artwork from the Evil Dead 2 movie, which I think that's a skeletal appearance of Bruce Campbell there. On the side of the box, we've got the very famous cabin, Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn. On the back of the package, a read-up says, after a relaxing cabin vacation doesn't go as planned, Ash is left with 3 dead friends, an undead girlfriend, and an angry evil spirit on the loose. As nightfall approaches, Ash must prepare to again battle the legions of the damned if he wants to make it to dawn. Down below, though the cabin is not included in this set, possibly a diorama down the road, NECA, you can see some of the different interchangeable things that come included with Ash. And finally, just before we open this up, on the interior, on the right side, let me direct this to you, the right side features Ash with a multitude of different accessories, and he does come with a lot. On the left side, you see an image of what the figure looks like. To check out more from the folks over at NECA, make sure you head over to www.necaonline.com. Spot's going to take a break. That's true, he is. He's going to take a break. I'm going to get this opened up, and when we come back, we're going to get a better look at the Ultimate Ash from Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn. There's more heading your way, guys. Don't go anywhere. Now that we have Ultimate Ash out of box, let's have a better look at the figure. Now, one thing I do have to mention, that this display stand actually does not come with the figure. I've simply just used the display stand that I have around the house just so I can get the figure to stand properly. And a lot of times now what I'm trying to do is use that display stand so I can have the figures standing and not having them, well, not having you come back to the video with the figures laying all over the place. So he doesn't actually come with this. I've just got it simply standing for the meantime. Now, Ash does come with a lot, but by calling him Ultimate Ash, or having him under the banner of Ultimate Ash, it's not 100% correct. It's correct in the aspect of where this Ash takes you to in the stage, in the point of the movie. So things, well, we'll get the elephant out of the room right off the bat. This Ash does not come with the section on the back here to hold the boomstick. Nor does he technically come with the boomstick itself. He comes with a regular shotgun, but it has not been sawed off. So there's no storage, there's no boomstick in that regard. And probably the one thing that you would ask, there is absolutely no chainsaw. This Ash does not come with a chainsaw. So it's technically leading up to the moment that Ash's hand is possessed and he has to hack it off. After that, perhaps we'll get another secondary Ash in which that you can incorporate the chainsaw, the additional armature or the additional section on the back to hold his boomstick. So I want to get that out of the way first, because somebody I'm sure will ask, where is his chainsaw? How come he doesn't have a chainsaw? He does not come with a chainsaw in this release. But he does come with a lot. Let's have a look at all the, you know what, let's look at the figure first, and then we'll kind of look at all the accessories that he comes with. The figure itself is great. I've quite liked NECA's approach towards the Evil Dead figures. Admittingly so, though, I still almost feel like the Cult Classics Ash was probably the best Ash sculpt from a face standpoint. But this one is no slouch. This one is still a really good sculpt of Bruce Campbell and Ash. He's got the blood trickling down the forehead. You'll also notice too, he's extremely wet. No, he's not really physically wet, but the paint that they've added to him, they've given him a wet wash so that he's got all the blood and guts and everything else all over his shirt. His face is very wet, as well as his hair. That looks really good on this figure. Again, the head sculpt is quite good. It's a carryover to some regard from previous released Ash figures. Case in point, reaching off camera, This is one of the earlier ashes that they had released. And yes, there are differences between the two ashes. I guess this is the Army of Darkness ash. So of course it has the ripped up shirt and whatnot. But essentially it's the same sort of style of figure. Now, one of the big glaring issues that I had with the initial release of these ash figures was that while it did have knee articulation, it still relied on a V-cut swivel, yada 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 yada, to move the legs. And it also kind of gave him always a permanent squatting position as opposed to having straight legs like the new Ultimate Ash does have. Now again, it's a little disappointing that he does not technically have the chainsaw, but I found actually what you can do. He does have, first of all, several different hands or several different arms that you can choose from. They sort of started the default look of Ash here by already having him with the severed off hand, to which you can see the severed off hand right here. And the hand has the longer fingernails there, a much more darker color as well, being that the hand is possessed. It is not something that can be attached to his hand or to the socket where his hand would be, as this is the hand that gets cut off. So I mean, you can have some fun with it. You can have it, you know, not really stuck to his face because it won't stay on his face, but you can kind of just have it on display. If you have a display stand, you can kind of have it just standing around like that. But again, like, he does have the arm that you can replace it with, this arm replaced with this arm, and this is where the hand starts becoming possessed before he cuts it off. While this hand can't be added to this hand, you can certainly then take this arm, and where the hand arm is bandaged, basically just grab it from the elbow area and wiggle it off and just pop it right off, and I'll just pop it off the stand as well, and replace it with this hand here. Now we're starting to kind of work our way back to the movie here. So now his hand has been possessed. And again, you can display it like that if you so wish. But if you want a more traditional Ash pre his hand being possessed, he also has just a regular hand too. And for that, simply just grab the wrist section, pull the hand off, the possessed hand, and replace it with a more familiar regular hand. And this hand, I have to admit, is a little bit more difficult to get into place. It seems as if almost like the hole isn't big enough on his hand versus the ball joint on the actual wrist area. So you have to apply a lot of pressure, but even still then, it is difficult to get on. With that hand now in place, and hopefully it stays in place, you can then get this hand to hold the other included accessory, the Necronomicon, or the Book of the Dead. Book of the Dead or Necronomicon looks very good. It's kind of slightly hard to make out some of the details. Let's put him back on his display stand. Or not on his display stand, but the one that I've used. We'll just put him right there. A lot easier, eh? When the figure's not falling all over the place. There we go. Oops, and then I just dropped the book. Hold on. Yes, it's always the time. Spot drops the smallest of these accessories. There's the Necronomicon right there. It's hard to almost make out some of the sculpt that they put on the book just because the book is so very, very small. There's the back of it right there. None of the pages obviously can open, but you can get the book itself and you can display it in his hand. Now, when you get it into his hand, be careful because it's going to fall. Well, the hand is going to fall out of the socket, or at least I've noticed it a couple of times, again, because that socket is so small. And you can have Ash holding the book like that. All right. One of the other things that come included with this Ultimate Ash is the alternate possessed Ash face. And the face looks great. All the more reason if you, and I say this several times, NECA kind of just forces the hands of the collectors that, in a good way, you want to pick up more than one of these. Then you can display Ash with the possessed face, and then one with the regular face. And we'll go ahead and, once again, take him off the stand. Wiggle the head off the neck socket. And replace the head with the evil Ash if you want to consider evil Ash. We'll just kind of wiggle it back onto place. Really just a matter of preference as to which way you want to display Ash. I would probably default myself going with the regular Ash personally, but all the more reason you would want to pick up 2 of these. His other accessories will include a axe, complete with somewhat different color. It's not quite blood, a more green mucousy slime that's been caked all over the blade of the axe. Included as well, you also get the tape recorder that summons the dead. I thought these might spin, but they actually don't spin. It's just one sculpted plastic piece, but paint on it is very good. If I could find now like a little tabletop desk where I could kind of put this on there, that would be very cool. Put the Necronomicon next to that. And lastly, for his more grotesque accessories, he comes also with the severed head of Linda. The dancing Linda body, sold separately. But the face looks really good though. Very vacant, pale eyes, the fangs there, and the more darker splatter all over her face as well. You could probably I might just ultimately display Ash with Linda's head just kind of sitting by his legs. So again, yeah, he doesn't come with necessarily the chainsaw, but if we can go back to this figure here, one thing that I found you can actually do, and I'm sure no secret, is that you can actually take the arm here of this originally released Ash, pull out the chainsaw completely, pull out this arm, like that, and replace it with the chainsaw arm. That's, again, if you want to have Ash displayed with this chainsaw, and it still works perfectly fine, like all your articulation and everything else still works fine. The arm is a little darker, but because there's so much wet all over his shirt, it still can fit pretty good, and it doesn't look too out of place. I guess you could almost just replace out the head if you wanted to as well, although I find this is a better looking head than this one right here. I don't know if I would challenge myself to try to taking the torso off if I wanted the ripped shirt, but maybe, down the road NECA might give us another Ash that has the section on the back for the shotgun, as well as the interchangeable hand with the chainsaw. But in the meantime, if you want to have him displayed with this, if you have simply the older figure, just pop out the arm and replace it as such. Go ahead and pop that back off and replace it with his original. In the way of Ultimate Ash's articulation, his head is on a ball joint. Ball joint lower torso, which moves all the way around. Hinged elbow, or hinged shoulders, I should say, with a full rotation all the way around. He has a bend in both elbows, not just one, but both, which rotate the lower forearm. He also has a rotation in the wrists, which I guess because they are ball jointed, they can hinge back and forth as well. Now this is where this figure shines. The Jason, if you've seen the review of my Ultimate 3 Jason, essentially we didn't get really many upgrades with that figure because that figure was already articulated to start off with. But the original Ashes, as you saw, had very limited posability. The newer Ultimate Ash does have the ball joint legs, which has a lot more posability options than the other one had. A lower bend at the knee, same as the original, and a rotation left and right. And finally, he's got also a ball joint in the foot. Truly speaking, this figure has enough going for it that I feel like it's a worthy pickup. Certainly fans of Evil Dad would definitely want to add this little guy to their collection. It does feel like NECA could have thrown us the bone and given us also the chainsaw hand. But if you kind of look at it again as to where this movie goes to, they've only given it up to the point of giving us the severed hand prior to the introduction of the chainsaw. If you do have the original figure as Spot did, it's simply just a case of swapping out the old Evil Dead Ash arm, at least for this one, and it works perfectly fine, but I wish that they had given us the chainsaw anyways, so that you could have done it yourself without having the previous figure mentioned. At any rate, though, it's still a great figure. NECA did a fantastic job, and I'm going to put this guy on the display with the other Ultimate figures that I've been collecting. Today's Toy Spot, we were finally having a look at the Evil Dead Dead by Dawn. This was Ultimate Ash. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more videos heading your way. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.